Welcome to this little mini course on how to read your birth chart. My name is Toni Keniston. You can find more information about me at tonikeniston.com. I am an astrologer, an artist. I wear many hats, but one of those is as an educator to help other people connect with their spirituality in a way that is, for lack of a better word, modern. We live busy lives, and it can be one of those things where spirituality and mysticism becomes unattainable. Because if we have to be sitting down to do a meditation every single day and connecting with our guides and pulling cards in the midst of reality, it can be really challenging. So I am here to lead the way to show you that you can be a messy mystic too. And we're going to get started today by just learning how to interpret a birth chart. Now, this is not really any information about how to analyze the information in it. I think we need to just have a basic groundwork of when you see your birth chart, which can be very overwhelming. What do all of the different lines mean? What do the pieces mean? And all of that good stuff. Sorry about that. So let's get started. I am going to go ahead and pop up my screen. So here is how to read a natal chart. Again, this is just going to be the basics. I'm hoping this video won't be too long. If you would like to kind of dive deeper and understand your chart better, I would first begin by hitting up the Learn tab on tonikeniston.com. There, I'm building my own video library, including the first 3 classes to Intro to Astrology. Those ones are paid. They are long. They come with a workbook. And they really get into the nitty gritty of all of the signs, all the planets, and each house system and what they all include. So, but I love to be able to share my knowledge when I can at accessible ways. So here we go. Let's go ahead and get started on how to read a birth chart. If you can have your birth chart up, pause if you need to grab that. Let's start first by learning a couple of the words that I'll be saying pretty often. So in case you are a beginner, these are the couple words that I think it's important for you to know. All right, the first is luminary. Luminaries are any cosmic body or calculated point that affects our birth chart. So yes, we're going to be looking at all the planets, the sun, the moon, but that's why planets doesn't really encompass all of the different parts of the chart that we need to analyze. For instance, Chiron, North and South Node, those are calculated points in the sky. We have comets and like fixed stars, those kind of things that are not planets, but still do have some pull on our chart. Number 2 is an aspect. We will not be touching on this very much in this short little video at all, but it is kind of like the next step after when you plan all of these things out. And I do tend to mention aspects a lot, and because aspect is a word used in modern language in other ways, I just want to make sure that when speaking about astrology, aspects are when 2 or more planets form any geometrical angle. Examples of this are going to be a square angle is 90 degrees. We have sextile at 60, trine at 30, and how those planets then interact with each other and the energy that volleys back and forth is much different. But again, that's going to be kind of after you've done all of this work. After you've gone through and you figured out how to read your chart, then you figure out where all of your planets in the signs mean, or all your luminaries in the signs, then all your luminaries in your house system. And kind of after you've nailed that, that's when you move on to aspects and how that information interacts with each other. And then you can go into transits and progress charts, and the fun really just never ends. All right. The third one I think that is important, of course, is the signs. This is something most people will be more comfortable with, and you probably know the 12 signs already. We begin with Aries and end with Pisces. Now, the signs, most people will say, like, what's your sign? And when they're doing that, they're normally asking for your sun sign. So where the sun appeared to be stationed at in the sky on the day that you were born. Of course, we know the sun doesn't move. We're the ones orbiting the sun, but because of that perspective, the sun appears to move through the sky into different ones. You also have your moon sign. So where was the moon at the time? What sign was your moon in at the time that you were born? What sign was Saturn in, and Mercury and Neptune and Uranus? And they go all the way down, and each one covers a different energy. And each planet also, has its own effect as well. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little tongue-tied about that. But pretty much, it's a portion of the sky that a constellation rules. While planets or any luminaries are in this pocket, they are affected by that sign's energy. And how that happens is different based on the planet. So let's say that you have Saturn in Leo or you have your moon in Leo, like those, just because the moon and Saturn are so very, very different energies, they're going to present as very different aspects of your life. So you might say, oh my God, I'm the farthest thing from a Leo. But when we dive into what the planet kind of magnifies that energy as, it distorts. It really does twist. So, Leo Saturn is going to really find some restriction and hard lessons around showing up and being seen. And we might see a Leo moon as somebody who can be a little bit more self-conscious and vain, and they really want people to think the best of them. They can be a little impulsive, maybe. So it just depends on what luminary you are analyzing in the sign. But whatever falls within that sign, you can be pretty positive that the energy of it, of that planet, will kind of carry through the luminary. The last and most confusing part for all beginners is the house system. If you need to, pause on the house system. In the Intro to Astrology course, it's 3 parts. In that, we learn houses last. And it's really great if you can kind of get the other fundamentals down before you head into the house system. Not that it's any more difficult, but because it's so foreign based on what we've seen in charts already. So if you haven't been studying it the whole time, it just feels kind of convoluted. But we'll get there, and I will show you how they are, how they're divided and how they're calculated here in just a few minutes. Okay, what's a birth chart? You can imagine your birth chart being created by someone standing exactly where you were born, like right next to you, and tipping a camera up towards the sky. Where those planets, asteroids, comets, and nodes fell in the sky at the time of your birth comprises the constellation of your birth chart. It's like a dome. And we always see it as a flat, which is fine, but that's where it is. It's that everything was in an orbit somewhere. We just don't know where. And that's what your birth chart tells us. Your birth chart is already divided by the signs. That's because it's the most well-known, and the signs stay where they are. Like, even if they shift through our night sky, the stars themselves, they're not moving. So that part is fixed. However, your house system is created at the moment that you were born. And this is how somebody that is born, 3 states over at the same time, date, whatever, everything else is the same except for where, or let's say they were born in the same hospital, but an hour later, their entire house system will look differently than yours. And I always like to say, if we're looking at the planetary system of your natal chart, that's what we're going to be talking about, your personality. So those are more what I call like your cheat codes. That's what you came into this life with. They're a little bit more fixed, just like the signs are. Now, the houses are much more personal to you, and it's the manifestation of your energy in your life. So, the first house rules self, the second, personal wealth and finance. So we want to look at those to figure out how that sign's energy affects that part of your life. And we'll get into that a little bit deeper. So in order to discover your rising sign, which is how we determine all of the houses, you need to know the time that you were born. That's super frustrating for a lot of people if you don't know the exact. We can get close, but you kind of want to take everything, with a little grain of salt. If you don't know your birth time, you can still find out where all of your planets were. And most likely your moon, as long as you know around what time you were born, you can usually find your moon. The moon changes signs, obviously, really, really quickly. And so we may then, what can end up happening is it's shifted in the morning, or so it's noon. Let's say the moon shifts from Aries to Taurus at noon. And you're not sure what time that you were born. Well, if you're born at 11, it's going to be Aries. If you're born at 1, it's going to be Taurus. But there are days, because the moon changes every day and a half, where it'll be in the sign for the full day. So if you can get close, you can usually know what sign your moon is in. But everything else you can definitely know. We just won't know houses. That is why there's kind of this fall of importance for the rising sign. Your rising sign is one of the most important parts of your chart. Again, it starts your entire house system. It is the ruler of your first house. It tells you a lot more about your personality, the way you look, the way you're perceived, the actions that you take to obtain the things that you want in this life. But because you have to know your birth time to get it, we tend to rely a lot more on our sun sign, which is kind of how we express our energy. It is the things that we want in life. So it's a lot easier for people to find their sun sign because all you need is your birthday, because the sun doesn't move as quickly through the signs. But if you do have your birth time, know that your rising sign is certainly one of the most important aspects of your chart. So let's kind of take a look here. Let's imagine this is the night sky and we kind of got rid of most of the constellations here. So all we see are these 12 in the like location of the sky that they would be owning, right? So if we have like Taurus is right here, you know, and Sagittarius over here, all of those good boys, they're all kind of scattered about and they each own a pie in the sky. Let's go ahead and add in. So this is just what you would see if you looked up at the night sky, right? As we take a birth chart, we're going to want to layer in this chart right here, which separates it all into different constellations. And we kind of can see the pies a little bit clearer. Now, for sake of learning, and because I'm not going to try to help you guys understand today all the different glyphs, so the little like symbols of each one. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs. The little symbols for each sign and for each planet, they can be a little bit much. You should definitely learn them and practice them if you're studying astrology, but for ease of information today, we're going to go ahead and wipe out the slate of what's been underneath that. And we're just going to go ahead and put in the words here. So when you are looking at your birth chart, Aries will not necessarily always be right here. These signs will change, and we'll get into why that happens. But you can almost imagine it like a wheel that rotates, and it rotates in order to accommodate your rising sign. So I went ahead and plopped in a couple of like cute little clip art graphics here because this is how, I mean, essentially your birth chart would look, right? We have where all of the signs are and we kind of, the planets fell into a sign at the time that you were born. You might have two that cluster together. Again, the moon moves really fast. A lot of the outer planets, they also move incredibly slow. You know, Pluto's in a sign for 14 to 30 years. So it depends on how quickly everything is moving along that it could change even from somebody born. Let's say I'm born October 7th, and my sister's born October 19th. But a lot of those inner planets, because they move and transit really, really quickly, our charts look incredibly different. And if we have, even though we're both Libras, my sister and I have very different energy because she's an Aries rising and I'm a Leo rising. So you can see how the sun sign, while it does give you a great idea of some core energy in your chart and who you are and where your energy is best focused, because the sun breathes life into all things that it touches, it is not like the end all be all of your chart. So you want to look at all these planets together and where they fall and what they affect in your life. So now this is the house system. So we kind of just removed the signs for a second, removed those planets, and let's look at what a house system is. This point right here, this line exactly, this cusp of the first house, this point is determined by where the sun is rising on the eastern horizon. Even if that is like 2 p.m., you know, where would the sun be at the time? Like if you looked off to the east, what constellation is right there? And the sun moves, you know, orbits through that, rotates through once a day. So we're looking at these changing every 2 hours, 24 hours in a day, 12 signs. The sun changes rising signs every 2 hours, meaning somebody born in the same hospital on the same day, born 2 hours later, is going to have a vastly different life and chart than you would. I thought I deleted that slide. Oh no. Oh, I'm going backwards. I'm so sorry. I'm really bad at this. I'm probably not even going to cut this because that's who I am. I'm lazy. Your natal chart will always begin with this rising sign, with this line at 9 o'clock position on the wheel. The other signs, again, they rotate in order to accommodate the houses. So now it'll be kind of hard to show because I have no way of like animating it. But like, so for me, when I'm looking at my chart, and I'll show you my chart in a minute, Leo was originally like over here in that first wheel that I showed you. But for me, Leo is here because it cranks to match it. But if the signs are stationary, how do they move for the houses? Of course, the wheel crank. So let's go ahead and add these signs back in. This is not like normal. I've seen a couple of charts that got pretty close to being like even as far as one house and one sign were like almost identical, but it doesn't always happen, especially if you're using different house systems. Like if you're not using equal, which you don't need to know today. Okay, so let's keep going here. We have, let's say our first house is Aquarius. So this person's first house, their personality is all Aquarius. Second house of personal finance, we love to see it in Capricorn because that means they're going to be probably very financially well off, and we like that. So all of these different houses, you can see how they're both at the same time. Now, if you are able to take my houses class, when you are ready to do so, each house is associated with a sign. They share very similar energy. The first house is associated with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac wheel. The second house with Taurus, third house Gemini, fourth house Cancer, on and on and on. But just because that's where they're associated does not mean that's where they're going to fall. In fact, the only way that that would ever happen would be if somebody was born with their rising sign at 0 degrees Aries. And still then it wouldn't be a perfect match if you're using the Placidius house system, which is a lot of jargon that you don't need to know right now. So we're going to add in those planets. These are not accurate whatsoever. However, we can't, why does it keep doing this to me? When they lay over top of each other. So you can kind of see, we have our night sky behind us. Underneath that, the constellations, which are those blue words, those are all fixed in the sky. The planets have all been rotating around that focal point. And no matter where you are, at what time, when you were born, that's what begins the rest of the house system. So they're divided really nicely right here, just for ease of me creating this slideshow. But let's push a little farther. I'm going to show you guys my birth chart so that we can get a deeper look into how they actually usually work. Okay, this is me and my birth chart. It's simplified a little bit. It doesn't have all the things I would normally have on it, all the different like minor aspects, but again, for ease of education. These lines right here in the middle are the aspects that we were talking about. And so like these ones are squared. My Gemini is square, my moon in Virgo, something like that. Or sorry, not my Gemini, my Jupiter. My Jupiter is square there. And each different colored line means a different aspect, but that's not important right now. We're going to be looking at, don't forget all of this stuff in the middle. All you want to look at right here is, let's start with my rising sign, is my Leo right here. If you can see that. As you can see, Leo, inside my Leo, if you can kind of like draw a pie right here, the only thing I have in Leo is my rising sign. That's it. So let's go ahead and we'll rotate back down here to Libra. And we only want, don't pay attention to any of the lines in here. You only want to pay attention to where the pie, like if this white line extended out. Okay. So in Libra, however, I have my Sun and Mercury. So I have two within Libra because they're falling within this, if you imagine this gray Libra stretching out. So let's take a close look though here. These pink lines that I had pop right in, they're pretty obnoxious and it can be kind of hard to view, but they do give us these dashed lines as well. I just wanted to kind of like make it so you can really see where the houses are divided. So one place that I think will be great to look at to kind of explain this a little further. This is where people get caught up the most. I get this question all the time because they will say, well, you know, my house cusp, let's say right here. So the line that begins your house, my house cusp, my fifth house cusp is in Sagittarius, but my Neptune is in Capricorn. And so they will assume that they have their chart wrong because they're thinking my entire fifth house is in Sagittarius. And how could Neptune be in that house then if my Neptune's in Capricorn? But if we are not looking then, because if we see where Sagittarius, see where his line is drawn right here, it cuts off these two guys, Saturn, who else is it? Saturn and Uranus, right in the middle of my fifth house. My fifth house is shared by half Sagittarius and half Capricorn. And then over here, still within this dashed line pie, I'll even go back so you can see it. During this, where just those dashes extend out, all three of these fall within my fifth house. However, they are in different signs. So it layers on top of each other. Again, you're going to have kind of like your night sky, the constellations exactly where they are. Then you're going to have the planets and where they are at that time. And then you're going to layer your house system over that. It's kind of like those transparency sheets from when from when I was a kid. Depends on when you were a kid, I suppose. So as we are going forward, we're kind of wrapping up, and just so you can understand the different parts and pieces of your chart. you want to analyze not only the sign that your luminary falls in, and start with like your sun sign. Your sun sign's easy peasy lemon squeezy because most people already know it. There's the most information about sun signs out there. So find out what sign your house is in, or your sun is in, which you should know. That's your main star sign. So mine's in Libra right here. That makes me express my energy very concise. I'm quite indecisive. The things that I want out of life are balance, harmony, fairness. I want things to be even keel. My biggest drive is to avoid confrontation in healthy ways, not hiding from it. Libra has no problem confronting. So that's my sun sign. That's the energy that I have. However, it's also in my third house of intelligence, communication, and higher thought. So that means that my third house, which rules those things, is also getting Libra energy. That means that when I am considering how I communicate, how I debate, how I talk to other people, it's very even. I'm not very reactive or explosive, non-confrontational as far as fighting. I can be a little bit more cold when I talk. And we also want to look, because the house system can show us more about how this plays out in our life. We're going to be seeing the things I'm going to be drawn to learning about, which could be things like criminal justice and law, counseling, coaching, mediating, things like that, where Libras like to be right in the middle. They even fall halfway in the middle of the chart with Virgo because they're the seventh sign. So after you can decipher, start with your sun sign, move on to your moon, work through all of them, both in sign and house. What does it mean for it to be in that sign and in that house? After that, that's when you begin to decipher the relationships between planets through aspects. And then you can go on to transits. And as planets transit in the sky, they make aspects to your natal chart. They make aspects to other planets in the sky, making it a collective energy right now. Aspects are where we really get into more moderate astrology. So if you are interested on learning more on these things, make sure that you head to TonyKennison.com. I have a bunch of blogs and an ever-growing video library that is excited to help you on your journey to understanding mysticism a little bit better. And astrology. This is information that you can use not only just for yourself, but for your partners, your children, your clients. Understanding someone's natal chart is really being handed the cheat codes to their personality. Now, doesn't cover conditioning, it doesn't cover, their lived experiences, but it's a great place to start and to help other people and yourself get more insight and an easier road to self-discovery. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was in any way a little bit helpful, just help you understand how that little pie chart really comes together and what all the pieces mean. Next time from here, head over to the Learn tab, get some more videos, read those blogs, and I will hopefully see you soon. If you are watching this prior to the end of 2022, make sure you come and check out the Astro Club. We are going to be diving deep into our charts every month of the year. And we're going to start with Capricorn season. We'll be doing the shadow work, learning about its different transits, where it falls in your chart in a very intimate way, with weekly club calls, monthly classes, so that you can learn more about astrology and about yourself as we go along. So I hope I will see you there. Give me a message, shout out everything that you have to say. I can't wait to talk to you soon, and have a wonderful day. Be weird.